they told him about her at once. He came and took her by the hand and lifted her up. Then the fever left her, and she began to serve them. That evening at sundown, they brought to him all who were sick or possessed with demons, and the whole city was gathered around the door. And he cured many who were sick with various diseases, and cast out many demons. And he would not permit the demons to speak, because they knew him. In the morning, while it was still very dark, he got up and went out to a deserted place, and there he prayed. And Simon and his companions hunted for him. When they found him, they said to him, "Everyone is searching for you." He answered, "Let us go on to the neighboring town, so that I may proclaim the message there also. For that is what I came to do." And he went throughout Galilee, proclaiming the message in their synagogues and casting out demons. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord.
Please be seated. Time to talk about healing. So I brought my commemorative coins. And Bob is still scratching his head. Why in heaven's name is she talking about coins if you're going to talk about healing today? But that's the way I am. I kind of do funny things. Commemorative coins. Last weekend, what was the commemorative coin? Super Bowl. We have a coin toss, right? To see who's going to have the advantage in the game, right? Well, that's one kind of commemorative coin. It has two sides, the heads and the tails, and it's kind of a, win, you're gonna lose. Are you ahead or are you behind? It's really, it's a fake coin, right? It doesn't have any value. It's kind of a silly tradition, whatever. It says that the world is divided into haves and have-nots. It's either or. That's the way we operate. That's the way we function. On, off, good, bad, live, die, win, lose. And that's kind of the way our world is. It's just that's what we live kind of day in and day out. But I am going to toss this commemorative useless coin, and where my thinking has been is another saying, another way of looking at things that we use in English when we talk about two sides of the same coin. And that means something different, doesn't it? That doesn't mean either or. What does it mean? Both and, right? So I want to talk about a few examples of two sides of the same coin. All right, and we can talk about healing. Suffering. We had all these, the town was overrun, it said, with Jesus, with people possessed by demons and ill and suffering. We all know in our human existence, this is real for us, right? We can pour out examples of suffering. If we went around every person in this room and just talked about what's going on in your own life right now, I bet that every person here could have something that really is about suffering. It's unfortunately, that is our human condition, isn't it? It really is. So what's the other side of the coin for suffering? That is really the other side of the coin and not an either or. I said joy. Okay, well, I don't know about that. You're either suffering or you're happy. Is that the way it works? Has that been your personal experience? It's not that simple, is it? No. It really isn't. How is it that it's two sides of the same coin? How is that? It's such an interesting phenomenon. And the doctors really can't help us with this one. They really can't. This is God's realm. This is God's There is no good scientific explanation. But so many of us know, and the Bible attests to it over and over again, that these joy and suffering are very connected to each other. They truly are. I wanted to share a little bit about an example that is still pretty fresh in my own experience. And it's 4 years ago, my father entered hospice care. Sometimes it's hard to believe it's been that long, because the loss is still there. The struggle is still there, even though now he's passed away. But his experience in those last days of having a degenerative lung disease, where you know it's not going to get better, it's slowly getting worse, where you can't breathe right, you're not getting enough oxygen, you're afraid, you're struggling. Emphysema is got a lot of suffering in it. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. So he goes into the hospice, a residential care facility, and everybody thinks you go to the hospice to die, and that's kind of how it is, but it's a bit deeper than that. We go to this hospice, and he's got different people caring for him, and they're giving him breathing treatments to try what little of his lungs are not so scarred up that they can still help him. He gets these breathing treatments, and it's a nebulizer. Those of you maybe who have allergies and things, you know what I'm talking about. It's attached to a little machine, and it bubbles, and it has some medication added to kind of a steam sort of thing. And you try to take a deep breath and blow, and it comes into the lungs and eases some of that pain and everything. So here's my dying dad in this nursing home, and he is getting his nebulizer treatment because he's suffering from emphysema. And he's got the thing in his mouth, and apparently this was I didn't just see it one time. The staff told me he's doing this frequently. Puts it in his mouth, and he starts blowing, and he's supposed to be breathing in, and he's making this kazoo sound out of the tube. And he's got his arms going, and he's going, and it's like, wait a minute, what is going on? I think this is joy. I think this is joy. It's the other side of the coin. How can, this is just wacky, okay? But this is what God does, okay? In the midst of this suffering and pain and struggle, joy keeps trying to burst its way through. And it's so contagious in this nursing home that now the staff want to go in and witness this concert. Because it's really tough working in a place where everybody's very ill and kind of going to pass on soon. It's not a great place to work in a lot of ways. The staff suffer. The emotions and everything. And now, the patient is ministering to the staff. And they're smiling, and they're humming along, and they're sitting there going, well, God is great. Because there is no other thing that you can really say in a situation like that. Except God is great. Two sides of the same coin. So, my next point. Curing and healing. Now, the Bible actually uses these words interchangeably, but in our day and age, in our scientific age, in our world where we know about microbes and things that the folks in Jesus' day had no concept of, about what causes illness, what causes disease. They didn't really know that. But a cure is not quite the same, but it's on the same coin as healing. Anybody here in the medical profession? Where's Heidi? She's done. When you are a technician, and it's your job to fight germs, to fight viruses and illnesses and such, okay? It's in some ways kind of like being a car mechanic, right? You got broken parts, you got things that aren't functioning right, and your job is to fix it, right? Correct it, replace the part, change the fluids, whatever, that kind of thing. And I don't know, our mechanic's pretty good with my car. He seems to be able to cure most of it. It's still running pretty well. It's a little harder with people, though. We're a complex organism, but we're going for the cure. We want it to stop. We want it to be eradicated, whatever that malady is. If it's an illness, if it's something in our body, if it's what we call mental illness, if it is broken relationships, if it is war, if it is, name it, right? We want a cure for that. Get rid of it, stop it, make it go away, it's done. Right? That's of course we're going to go for that. But is that the same as healing? I've seen heads shake. Because we know, those of us who are not medical people per se, we know that it is and it isn't. It's really not, healing is not quite the same. And we have the possibility to have healing all over a situation, all over the place, even in situations where this may be eluding us. Right? So here's my dad able to provide healing to beleaguered nursing home staff persons, even in the midst of his incurable condition. Right? This kind of healing can happen in so many ways. The story that's in our gospel lesson today, Simon's mother-in-law. Okay, so she's in bed, she's got this fever, she's supposed to be entertaining her son-in-law's company. They've all come into the house. Her job is to feed people, to make sure that everyone is cared for and comfortable, and she cannot do any of that because she's in bed. And it's a very shameful, embarrassing, and frustrating position for someone that's who she is, to be that caregiver in that home. And now she can't do that. So Jesus comes and lifts her up, and there's all kinds of fun symbolism about it. You could be wheels turning about that. He lifts her out of her bed, and she is cured. Right? The fever is gone. There's no middle time. There's no resting. It's like get up and take up where she was. She's cured. But Jesus' presence is about more than just a cure. It's about healing. How is she healed in this situation? How is the whole household healed in this situation? And Jesus is willing and able, in some pretty creative ways, to just make this much more than simply, okay, take this pill, you'll be fine, out the door, next customer. No. This is about restoring the whole conversation about the role of women and, you know, if she got free to be a slave in her household again, this kind of thing, and sometimes that can feel a little, in our day and age, a little awkward. But it says that she got up and served. It says she got up and served. And whether that's serving the way we serve in our day and age, or maybe just a little different in that culture, that was what she was freed from this malady to be able to do, to serve others, to make things comfortable, to feed, to give drink, to give bread, to give welcome and comfort to other people. And that's never really been a role in our society, in their society, that had a lot of high standing to begin with, did it? It's the kind of thing that women, or people who were servants, whether they were women or men particularly, you just did it. Quietly, you did your duty. It was what you were, your place in life. It was who you are, and you did it, whether it gave you high status or not, right? So, to be able to restore this relationship was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful thing for her. Now, we don't know exactly what happened with Peter's mother-in-law over those years. We know she didn't die of this fever. That was good. We know that she was able to be restored to be a servant. But what we do know is that there were a whole collection of women that Mark attests to a little later on, in particular, who were servants around the ministry of Jesus. They didn't have any fame. Most of them were not named by name. We've got a few, like Mary Magdalene, that we know were healed by Jesus and then was healed he was healed for a life of service after that, a life of freedom and joy, because now the world was different for them. They were restored. And you know, some of us have a little hunch that what if Simon's mother-in-law was part of that group too? Was part of that entourage that silently, quietly, without a lot of fanfare, never having their name out there, never getting glory for yourself, but just doing what was asked of you, doing what needed to be done at the time. But now, as a healed person, now with an experience of how God sees healing, not just a technician sees healing, that what does that bring to the rest of the world? And so be able to yourself participate in healing. It's not big and dramatic, it's not going to be on one of those TV shows or something, but it's real. It's real, and it all adds up. So she got up and served. I got one more coin here, because just to lead off on that, I got a little phrase here. This is not the best grammar in the world. But what does it mean when I say I gotta do this? I have to do it, right? I don't have a choice. I gotta do it. All right, we say that. But then on the other side of the coin is, you get to do it. And what does that mean? Does that have a little different feel to it? You want to do it. It's a joy. It's a pleasure. It's a privilege to do something. So how is it that these are on the same side of a coin? All right. Sometimes you gotta do it. Like Simon's mother-in-law, she's gotta get up, cook the food, put the things out, bake the bread, pour the wine. Which, you know, there's her obligations. That you gotta do it, right? It's gotta get done. But somehow now she can come into a spirit of, I get to do it. What does that do? What does that do to your actions, to the results of whatever it is that you're doing? I mean, because he's got to help more people. So where do you get to this point? Sometimes it doesn't feel like there's very much joy and embracing and acceptance and wanting and privilege in it. It's just, you gotta do it, right? But Jesus is saying, I'm inviting you disciples, you first-ring disciples, you second-ring women disciples that don't have any name, that are hanging on the edges, feeding people and caring for the world, you people in the 21st century, I'm inviting you. You get to help heal these people. You get to help bring healing to a hurting world, to hurting individuals, whether it's your own family, whether it's your next door neighbor, whether it's a perfect stranger. You get to do that with me. Cool. Like, come on, let's do it. But the reality is there's always going to be a part of this, because we're human, and we get tired, and we're not always really skilled a lot of times. We're confident. Yeah. It's both and. It's both and. So we distributed Band-Aids to the kids. But as you know, a lot of times the children's message has things to say to big people as well. Right? And we can sit here, I know, say, oh, that saying, right, about you just put a Band-Aid on a gaping wound, that's just stupid, right? Band-Aids don't cure things. Band-Aids don't really save the world, right? It's just a Band-Aid. It's just a token, right? We use that kind of expression, that kind of language, don't we? But I think Jesus is, again, trying to open our eyes and our hearts and give us experiences where maybe administering that Band-Aid is the most healing thing that happened in a situation in the long run. That that's truly possible. Not to say doctors don't do a good job or that nurses aren't great, whatever, but sometimes it is that holding a hand, that gesture, that encouragement, that drying a tear. Who's to say? We don't know. Except that we know that the way Jesus operates is about both and, right? That's the way Jesus heals people, and we can do both and just as well. Time to get healed, time to be a healer. Let's not sell ourselves short because Jesus wants and needs, because we got to do it. There's a hurting world, and we got to do it. We got to make a difference.